It's Teacher Tip Tuesday, and I'm Dr. Cindy Burnett. Today, I'd like to talk about developing a creative educational experience. Now, when I work with educators, they often say, okay, Cindy, so how do I create an educational experience for my students? And I like to take an appreciative inquiry approach with all educators, which means starting with what worked for you. So I'm going to ask you the question right now. Can you think about what was the most educational experience that you have had in your life? Perhaps it was a kindergarten teacher that allowed your colorful animals to emerge. Or perhaps it was a middle school science teacher who got you excited about embracing challenges and dissecting animals. Or maybe it was a college professor who intrigued you in their approach to learning. Whatever it is, this creative educational experience, and it can be outside of a traditional classroom, meaning going to a science exhibit or a camp. Think about this creative educational experience in as much detail as possible. Write down those elements and think about how might you include those elements into the class that you are currently teaching. I'd like to tell you about my most creative educational experience, and it was in the 10th grade in a class called Theory of Knowledge with Mr. Frank Scalza. And Mr. Scalza, if you're watching this, you're the reason why I went into creativity. So Mr. Scalza gave us assignments that allowed for creative exploration. Instead of just writing about a particular person, I got to interview someone and then write about their life. I remember reading J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye, and I was able to create whatever I wanted about what I learned from the book. And so I took Calvin and Hobbes, my favorite cartoon at the time, and I created a whole comic book series about J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye. I also remember in his class, we had made a movie about Tom Sawyer. And I remember creating this movie, and we had gigantic video cameras, and we were all running around and making the movie, and it brought the learning to life. So for me, it was about having open-ended assignments. It was about autonomy, and it was about using our creative expression to take into account what I was learning and bring it into life. So when I create my own learning experiences in my classroom, that's what I always think about. How might I create an assignment where students actually have some autonomy in terms of what they're going to be learning about? How might I allow them to absorb everything that they're learning and then to create it and express it in a way that's meaningful to them? So your assignment for tonight is to find another teacher or even just a colleague or friend, or again, just write it down in a notebook, your most creative educational experience. And then extract those comments from the conversation or from your letter. And then think about how might you bring those elements into your classroom in the next month. What's one small thing that you can do to create an experience for your students like you had? That's today's teacher tip. I would love to hear your stories or the areas that you feel are most important for developing a creative educational experience. Please put those in the comments below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're interested in hearing more teacher tips, and soon I will be interviewing teachers that will be sharing their tips. Thanks and have a great week.